This one here that we're gonna play
is
like stupid new. Alright? Just stupid new. We're just gonna play it because what the hell, why not, right?
Right.
You guys wanna hear a stupid ass new song, right?
Yeah.
Cool. It's a little different, but it's fun.
Hey. Yeah.
Try
Oh, scummy, why are you an asshole? I think I might have said this like once or twice before, I don't know. Oh, scummy, why are you wasted every day, every single moment, every hour that you're away? I only wish that I had the chance to get it on with Pam Anderson before she lived like my spirit animal. Danny DeVito, he is my hero. And I'm sorry that I got distracted from what the song's about. Oh, scummy, why are you such a piece of shit? Okay, maybe you're not a piece of shit, and I'm just jealous. I only wish that I had the chance to get it on with Pam Anderson before she lived like my spirit animal. Danny DeVito.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. Si es jueves, es que no soy yo. If it's Thursday, it's I'm No Joe. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. Today, as like some days, I have got Golf T here with me. Today, we do actually have validation, though, to confirm the poor young gunner's ceiling decided it was going to take a leak on him in this cold. He has got the nightmare of breaking pipes going on. So if he can get everything squared away, he might make it here. But if not, I absolutely feel that pain and I completely understand. That being said, though, we do still have Galti here with us. So how the fuck are you doing this evening, brother?
I'm here. Hopefully he gets his leaky pipe fixed. You know, I'll say I am excited for this card, but for only two reasons. And I really think this week is really going to show how well that price hike that ESPN took does. I think it's going to flop miserably, and they're going to realize that this was a really bad idea when a card is only good for two reasons.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's going to... And I don't want to be fucking negative Nancy, because I know I always get shit for always looking at the fucking negative side of things, and I admit that. But I do have a feeling that you're 100% right here, that this card is not going to be nearly as big as they've been trying to make it out to be, and that it is going to flop a little harder than they anticipated, and being the first card with the new ESPN price jack on it. Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of shit salad they're going to have to eat come Monday morning.
Yeah, I think the UFC may have fucked themselves when they let UFC or the ESPN take the fucking pay-per-view rights, because that totally this isn't fucking boxing. People don't want to pay $100 for fucking that, and I get it. Look, it's kind of like back in the day when I used to smoke cigarettes. I'm going to quit when price hits this point. People aren't really going to quit MMA. They're just going to figure out other ways to watch it for cheaper.
Yeah. No, and I will, to be fair, From a business standpoint, I do understand a certain degree of it, because while they are absolutely trying to follow that boxing model of the pay-per-views, I would absolutely say that at this point, for your $75, there are way more notable fights or recognizable named fights on a 4.5 hour, 5 hour long, whatever it comes out to be, UFC event than there is your average HBO or Showtime boxing event these days. That being said, I think they're both over fucking priced.
And then this one is falling right under that whole boxing mantra. You're going to have two fights you really know. And the other ones, if you are the
hardcores.
If you're not a fan who watches all the fucking time, you're not going to know half the fighters on here. Guaranteed. If you're just a casual fan, you're not going to know half the people. And if you're a casual, I'll go as far as to say, don't buy this, because it's not worth your fucking money. You're not going to know most of the fighters on here, and most of it doesn't have a whole lot of implications on any division.
Oh, I did hear a good one. This is one of those cards that is better recommended for a casual to go sit at Buffalo Wild Wings and watch than to pay the $75 themselves, because I think it's $15 or $20 depending on your B-dubs, and it like that gets you in for the duration of the UFC, gets you like half price beers and like 50-cent wings or something like that for the duration.
Yeah, if you're gonna spend $75, go get filled up and get drunk. Fuck it.
That's a way better fucking value than sitting at home, which is obviously way more comfortable and way more, recreational.
That if you're at fucking home, you got to make your own wings and you got to serve your own beer. Somebody else will do it for you if you go to B-dubs.
Exactly. Yeah, this would be a good card to go out somewhere like that and watch, as opposed to buying at home if you're not a hardcore fucking MMA fan like a couple of us are. That being said, though, the kid and I, before his fucking pipes froze today, went through last weekend and went and did ourselves a What Did I Say show. We're trying to bring that back for this season. Ideally, we will do our Thursday nights here, 9:30-ish Central Time. We will give the news and recent events. We will do the breakdown of the card like we're going to do in just a little bit here. And then on Sunday evenings, 9:30-ish Central Time, trying to keep that same time slot there so you guys know where we're at. Right back here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. These do not get posted as audio clips, so you have to tune into YouTube to see the What Did I Say show. But I and hopefully the kid are going to be doing our recaps on Sunday to give you guys the run back over all the shit that happened over the weekend. That way we can focus a little more of the actual Thursday night show on the card we've got coming up, like we plan to do tonight. So that being said, no recap to open. We're going to jump right in to some news and recent events, because we have had some interesting fight announcements and some very interesting news shake down the pipe, as it were, in the last week since we saw you fine folks.
Oh, good God, there's some fuckery afoot right now.
Oh my goodness, is there ever. So as is most weeks, I tried to keep this in chronological order, and as is the case in most weeks, literally an hour before the show went live, we got a couple of last minute news tidbits that are going to look kind of weird at the end, but it'll all work out. So starting out here, UFC 271 taking place on February 12th has officially had a very interesting fight added to it here. Andre the Pitbull Arlovsky steps back in to take on Jared Vanderaa, which is a little odd considering Arlovsky just got called out before this fight was signed, and I think that fight would have made a lot more sense, but that's trying to use logic to solve a UFC problem. So we know that's not going to work. That being said, the following weekend after that, on February 18th, we will see the debut of the PFL launching their brand new, air quotes for those of you listening, Challenger Series. The feeder event to get folks a contract with the PFL, quite literally the PFL's answer to the the Contender Series. The interesting thing here is that at least with the Soup Can Series, that's on Fight Pass and ESPN Plus, so there's plenty of different outlets to see it. PFL, on the other hand, will be premiering their Challenger Series on Fubo, whatever the fuck that is. So good luck with that. I will say if they are trying to stay legitimately competing with the UFC, this type of move is absolutely the right way to go. Create your own feeder channel. Don't rely on, folks getting cut from other organizations. That way you can bring in your homegrown talent like the Bellator has started to do, and they've got a considerable amount of Bellator only professional fighters, guys that literally came from the amateur circuit and cut their teeth in Bellator and have been 100% Bellator roster guys. So this is exactly how the PFL gets themselves on that same path and puts themselves in contention to stay a legitimate top organization. Good on you. I don't know how well it's going to work. We'll have to watch for sure. But from a competition standpoint, that's the right move to make.
And to be quite honest, I think they might actually pull some more recruits versus the UFC, because they know with their guaranteed $1 million prize every year, more people are going to want to do that versus the UFC. Well, we're going to guarantee you a couple fights and you're going to get paid about 10 grand per fight.
Yeah.
Versus I have a shot at $1 million.
10 for 4 years.
Why would I not go for fucking 7 figures or 6 figures or whatever? Versus
that and the biggest factor of all, in my opinion, PFL doesn't give a fuck who your sponsors are.
Yeah, so there's extra money involved there.
They're not tying you into that fucking formerly Reebok, now Venom exclusive Venom crypto, whatever the fuck it is, exclusive sponsorship deal. All the rest of the organizations outside the UFC let you have whoever the fuck you want as a sponsor, and that's where most fighters, all of them in the past have confirmed, make the legitimate chunk of their money as fighters from those sponsorship patches and shit. So,
and that's kind of funny in its own right. Thing about it like this: the UFC. All right, I'm gonna make the comparison to football because we have playoff football coming this weekend too. But look at MMA organizations versus American football organizations, and I'm saying American for those of our overseas listeners. Don't confuse it as footy. But American football, you have a couple of different leagues. You've got an arena league. You've got CFL or Canadian Football League. You got the NFL, which is the peak of American football. You got to look at MMA in the same light in this. And don't worry, I'm coming back around to the whole sponsorship thing. Believe me, I'm getting there. You have Bellator. Allows you to get your own sponsors. You have fucking PFL, One, all of these places that allow you to have your own sponsors. Then you have the premier MMA fucking king in the UFC, who they force you to go with their sponsors. Similar to these other arena league, CFL, where they kind of get their own sponsorship deals to get shit done. The NFL, on the other hand, is no, you're going to wear Nike uniforms because that's who we have our deal with right now, period. And you're not allowed to stray outside of this set path that we have you on. UFC is in that same boat. So they're kind of following that model of the NFL of, we know we're the big dogs. We're going to force you to do what we want if you want to be in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But there's more money to be made elsewhere. Just saying.
That's what I was going to say. That absolutely will give PFL a leg up if they get this working. Not to mention, several fighters have mentioned previously that they feel way less pressure when they know that Scott Coker is standing out in the crowd somewhere and potentially about to give them a contract, or Chatri is standing out in the crowd watching them, as opposed to Dana White, because Dana White is so publicly critical of everyone, whether he signs them or not. If he's watching you, people will hear about it. And if he doesn't like you for whatever reason, he'll publicly shit on you, which could potentially tarnish your opportunities in the future. Whereas none of the other guys do that. So another possible leg up for the PFL as opposed to the UFC. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out because it's going to fire up here in just a couple of weeks. On that same weekend, though, the following day, taking place on February 19th, we get the return of Knuckle Mania 2 from BKFC. The card is officially finalized. It will be headlined by Aluminum Mike Perry by the Let Me Bang dipshit, Julian Lane. It will also feature Palomino versus Brown for the 155-pound bare knuckle belt. It will feature Britain Hart versus Christina Ferreira for the ladies 125 inaugural belts. And the one that most people will most likely be tuning into, aside from Aluminum Mike, the debut in BKFC of one Chad Money Mendez taking on Famez. Height-wise, both of those dudes are the same size. If you've seen his social media, though, lately, Chad Mendez seems to be on that Alistair Overeem horse meat diet, because holy shit, he's taking all the vitamins right now.
Oh, yeah, he's starting to look like a fucking ice cream cone. Like,
yes,
bad, which I get it. He only has to focus on one thing now, so you can work all upper body. And with whatever you're adding with diet.
Isn't USADA.
Yeah. There is that.
No, it could be very interesting, because anybody who's followed MMA for any decent amount of time knows Chad Mendez was never really a walk in the park for anybody, but also he was never known for his boxing. Chad Mendez was always one of those short powerhouse wrestlers that if he got his hands around your waist, you're going for a fucking ride. And if he got you on the ground, he's probably going to fucking hold you there and do what he wants, unless you're also a fairly elite or accomplished, at least, wrestler yourself. That plays zero fucking factor in him going to BKFC, because none of that translates whatsoever. It is all boxing. And even then, they've got a slightly different rule set with their clinch work and with their activity rules, as opposed to traditional boxing as well. So it's not even like regular boxing. It is genuinely its own unique thing at this point. So I'm very curious to see how he's actually going to play out, because if it goes kind of like how we saw in that fucking ridiculously promoted but still interesting Triller Triad combat that they put on, when the MMA guys get to wear boxing shoes in the ring, it makes a notable difference in most matches that we have seen, whether they're in a fucking triangle or in a regular fucking BKFC squared circle, I say with air quotes. The boxing shoes being able to stay on during the fight for MMA guys makes a difference, considering 99% of them train barefoot, because that's how they'll be fighting in the octagon. That grip makes a difference in punching. It really does.
Oh, and there's a noticeable difference in power. You can see it when they hit somebody. There's a notable, hugely different fucking seeming. There's like a exponential power curve. No shoes. Fucking shoes, straight up. Yeah. It's fucking wild. Like, that's why I laugh. Those guys who talk boxing and say, "Oh, I want to come to MMA." You're gonna lose some power, guys, and a good bit of it, and you're gonna have to relearn how to swing properly to not lose your footing.
Yep. Yeah, because it's a different animal, and I agree. The guys going from MMA in this situation actually, in my opinion, benefit a lot more than skilled, genuine, trained boxers making the other transition, because, like you said, they're used to being able to count on that grip for their movement and for their planting and their throwing. And when you take your fucking shoes off and you're barefoot on canvas, it's not the fucking same as having grippy fucking controlled shoes holding you in place to be able to plant from. I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. It's going to be a hell of a weekend over there on the 19th, it looks like. Moving along from there, though, I don't understand why they're doing this, but they have moved, thanks in part to a dipshit not knowing how to operate their own fingers, a match that was going to be on this coming weekend's card to the UFC 272 card on March 5th. Voldemort is staying in against Sergey Spivak. So I'm not sure what the fuck happened to Alexei Oleinik, who was originally supposed to be in that match, but he is apparently out of the picture. And for some reason now, this replacement fight has gone from one pay-per-view that it didn't need to be on to begin with to another pay-per-view that it most definitely doesn't need to be on as well. We'll see if they do the right thing by all of us fight fans and bury it in the fucking prelims somewhere, but I doubt it. It's probably going to end up as fucking people's co-main event or something. So we'll see.
I really hope fucking Polar Bear just comes in there and just absolutely decimates him, rearranges his fucking throat, face, the whole nine, and we
I don't
never
even want to see a round
fucking
two.
again.
I don't want to see a round two. I want to see Sergey just come out there and fucking waylay that fool like a sack of potatoes, get it done real quick, real easy, no damage, onto the fucking next one, and kick that piece of shit on down the road.
Maybe I'm a little fucking wanting to see death possibly. I want to see him get his ass beat up and down that fucking octagon for fucking all 3 rounds. And
can we bring Mario Yamasaki back for a fight?
Yeah, just let the dude almost die, please.
Or like,
look,
somebody give Keith Peterson some wine and cigarettes and then bring him in there for it.
Look, I know what that idiot has done. I don't wish death upon anyone. But that one's pretty fucking close.
I wouldn't actively take part, but I would willingly look away while it happened. I would think I'm at that point with this individual.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I might say I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I don't think I'm willing to dirty my hands over someone that I'm not directly connected to, but knowing the story, I would know it was happening and look the other way and stare off into the clouds.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, though, on a happier note, 2 weeks after that, on March 19th, we have got official confirmation the UFC has come back to the O2 Arena in London. We also got the last minute news edition that I was talking about earlier here. The big one actually pertains to the London card. They confirmed on Tuesday that the UFC was in fact going back to London for that May 19th card. And then just this evening, an hour before we went live, there was official confirmation that that London card now has its main event booked in writing, signed on both parts. The headline for the March 19th UFC London card will be none other than hometown boy Tom Aspinall versus Alexander Volkov. That's a great fucking fight all the way around. And to let Tom do that in London, I really, really genuinely hope nothing happens between now and then to fuck that up, because that would be fucking perfect for all parties involved, I think.
That'll blow the fucking roof off of that building.
Yes, it will. Yeah, the O2 will absolutely lose its shit, win, lose, or draw when Aspinall comes walking through those fucking archways. I'm telling you right now, that's going to be a good one to watch for a fight night. Next couple here, got a pair of them for the April 16th card. The first one here, Miguel Baeza getting back into the octagon to give it another stab versus Diego Lima, which I think is a very, very interesting matchup. Both, you know, they say skills make matchups, and that's a pretty interesting pair of fucking skill sets there. But the one that I'm really interested in that they just announced after that was the other fight, Brandon Jenkins getting back in there to welcome back for the first time in a hot fucking minute, Drakkar Klose coming back after his near-death experience at the hands of Jeremy Stephens in the weigh-in. Drakkar Klose was genuinely on a pretty good fucking run there for a hot minute. And then when Jeremy Stephens fucking sucker shot him at the weigh-ins and apparently legitimately caused a concussion and really fucked him up, it put a whole monkey wrench in the works for Drakkar. So this is going to be the first time we've actually seen him back getting into the cage since that incident happened with Stephens almost 2 years ago now. So I'm very curious to see how that one plays out. Did he legitimately get something that drastic happen to him that this might not work, that we're not going to see the same guy anymore? Or was there other factors at play? And now he's back and ready to get back like he was before. There's a lot on the line that could go either way there, and I'm curious to see it.
It does make me wonder. Look, I'll go out and say it. That shot was not as hard as it could have been. Yes, his head snapped back from being pushed. But to get a concussion from something like that does make me question where he goes moving forward. Because that's not something you generally see a concussion from, getting shoved.
Yeah.
Just saying. So
yeah, it was a weird circumstance. If you go back and watch the video, he legitimately didn't see it coming. He was completely relaxed, arms completely behind his back, wasn't even really looking at Stevens, and then got fucking human bull whipped by the shove. So it's understandable that he did get injured, or he did get, hurt, I say with air quotes, to some degree, but to be a concussion and something this severe that he's been out for 2 years from that, I don't know. That's part of why I'm so damn curious to see how he looks when he gets back in there.
I wish him the best, and I hope he does well, but I'm thinking that's going to make things a little suspect moving forward. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Makes you wonder for damn sure. I completely agree. Speaking of making you wonder, why, UFC? Why does this have to be the matchup that is made? Because this is the third fucking time this exact match has now been rebooked, and it's a UFC debut of a gentleman that there is very little, if any, hype surrounding. Dean Barry making his third attempt at his UFC debut for the third time, potentially, against none other than CM Punk's baby daddy, Mike Jackson. I cannot for the life of me figure out why the fuck they have stuck with those two paired together 3 fucking times down the line here. I genuinely feel worse for Dean Barry than anyone here, because that's not a real fight that anybody's going to get too terribly excited about for your debut. On top of that, they stuck you with him 3 fucking times in a row, and I guarantee there was at least one opening in the last 8 months or so since this first was announced where they could have gotten him in against somebody else, even if it wasn't, a fucking top 50 guy. But they're going to do it, and they're going to do it on April 23rd, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong this time. That being said, though, the other half, the much better half, in my opinion, of the duo of the announcements for the April 23rd card that we got, much more interesting, in my opinion. Claudio Puelles stepping in to take on Clay the Carpenter Guida. Wrestling versus wrestling. We have seen that Guida very much still has it, so they're giving him another young guy challenge, up and coming prospect, to see what he can do with it. We'll see how it plays out for him. Following that, 2 weeks later, May 13th, we have got I would say most definitely less exciting than the March cards announcement. The O2 Arena will be hosting the Bellator London card on May 15th, where the headliner will be the welterweight belt contested between Yaroslav Amosov and Michael Venom Page. How they are giving MVP this fight instead of giving Lima the chance to get his belt back from a guy who quite literally just wet blanketed him to a pointed decision to take it, I don't get. I used to think that Scott Coker was smarter than that, but now I'm obviously having fucking doubts. Amosov is not the Khabib they tried to make him out to be, and I don't see him holding on to that belt for much longer. The shitty part is that if MVP can land one of his crazy flying knees, he legitimately could catch Amosov going in on a takedown, Ben Askren style, and get that fucking belt undeservedly wrapped around his fucking waist. And then they will, I guarantee, fuck Lima out of a chance to come back and get it. I don't think Amaslov deserves that belt, but I know that MVP doesn't either. As much as I hate to say it, if the cards play out and that is the only path that Douglas Lima has to get back to the belt, so be it. But I don't think it's the best route, and I damn sure don't think that anyone really wins if MVP somehow gets that fucking gold wrapped around his waist on that weekend.
Well, that's a good way to make the promotion look bad. Period.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you really want a soup can crusher as your fucking champion, by all means do some stupid shit. But I mean, they're by all means doing stupid shit right now. That's all I'm saying.
Considering the guy literally has fought 2 ranked opponents out of his last 12 fights and lost, legitimately on one, illegitimately won and really lost in one of the other of those 12 fights, both of those being versus the ranked opponent. He shouldn't even be in the fucking title conversation, let alone the title fight, in my opinion. But people don't think Bellator be like it is, but it do. Moving on from there, though, we've got some not fight but more interesting announcements here to go over before we get into the card for this weekend. The first one, and the funniest one in my opinion here, being Carlos Felipe officially being handed down an 18-month suspension sentence from USADA for his second violation in less than 2 years. He said that this comes as a complete surprise to him and that he doesn't have the money to fight the charges, so he's just going to have to take it and won't be eligible to compete again until the end of 2023.
That is
the best
also the
part
way of saying I did it and I refuse to go take out a loan to prove my innocence.
Right. I think the cherry on top of it for me isn't so much that it happened and has now happened again and he got caught both fucking times, but so much as the person who he cheated against to get caught this time, his suspension stems back from his fight against Andrei Arlovsky,
in which he got his shit kicked in.
Yeah, he got fucking handled and was apparently juiced to the tits while doing it. So congratulations on sucking on multiple fronts at the same time and getting caught just enough to fuck yourself. Oh, some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill, as they say. And then the next one that I've got to talk about here literally ties right into that. And Galthi and I actually talked about this one the other day. I find myself in a very awkward position here because despite the fact that a sun shines on a blind dog's ass once in a great while, no matter the odds, we find ourselves at the crossroad where I have to genuinely and legitimately agree with something that Aljamain Sterling has said. As much as it absolutely fucking bothers me to even have those words come out of my mouth in sequence. But he has stated that at this point in the game, it is 2022. We have science, we have health, we have technology, we have reports, we have verified information at our disposal. We know for a fact using performance enhancing drugs of any variety in combat sports increase the likelihood of you killing or permanently injuring your opponent. Despite the factor of fairness, they give you a genuine and undeniable advantage and encouraged opportunity to kill or permanently injure your opponent in a prize fight. And for that, if you are caught cheating using any type of steroid or EPO, Aljamain Sterling believes no suspension, no fine. You deserve jail time. I don't know genuinely the last time I have heard anyone in the fight game say something so logical and so sincerely that I could not agree with fast enough. He might be the world's worst actor and the guarantee world's worst quote unquote champion, but despite all of that, this fucking clown has 100% hit the nail on the head here, and I absolutely agree vehemently with that statement. If you are caught using performance enhancement in the combat sports world, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to fucking jail. You tried to kill someone.
It's a fucking felony. Period. And look, even when we were talking about it yesterday, I said that tastes terrible coming out of my mouth to say that. I completely agree 100% with Aljamain Sterling. Solely on this one thing. I want to make that very clear, but it still tastes fucking terrible. It's like I threw up, swallowed it back down, and threw up again kind of taste. It's that bad that I actually agree with him. However, credit where credit's due. The man's fucking onto something right there, and I really hope somebody takes a fucking hold of that and goes, you know what? That should be the case. You get caught fucking cheating. Look, out of competition, okay, I get it. Go ahead and give the fucking thing, but in competition, nah, motherfucker.
Yeah, nothing. No chance. No
brought up on
warnings.
charges. You're getting arrested as you're leaving the fucking arena. That's or before you even get to the arena, be brought up on charges right as you get there. Fuck it.
No, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. It's very ironic to me, and maybe this is just because I have a weird fucking sense of humor, and that's completely plausible too. But I find it extremely ironic that in 2022, the fighters themselves are making notably a much more and louder protest against cheats in performance enhancement and cheats in weight cutting or lack thereof in the ability to not correctly do so than the organization sanctioning the very fights that these issues are talked about because of. We've heard more fighters in the last calendar year, we'll say, alone, come out vehemently talking about if you miss weight, you should get fucking fined 90% of your purse. You should get fined 80% of your purse. 20 and 30% is not enough because people still fuck it up routinely. We have seen champions come out and say, if you miss weight, 90% of your fucking purse, right off the goddamn top. We have now got people coming out and saying from the fights, from the fighter's side, if you get caught cheating because you're using fucking steroids, go to jail, get out of my fucking sport. And I don't understand why the fighters have to say this and the organizations aren't.
Yeah, it's a sad thing when the organizations themselves aren't doing that, knowing, look, the UFC has been around since the 90s. So we're getting pretty close to that fucking 30-year mark.
Yep.
Just saying. It's time that to include in boxing and any other sort of combat sport where there is legitimate chance of permanent injury or death without the use of fucking steroids and other performance enhancing fucking drugs. Any of those, any combat sport as a whole, if you get caught with that shit in your system, you deserve some sort of jail time and major repercussion. Oh, a slap on the wrist and you're going to get fucking 18 months. Guess what? That's an 18-month prison sentence. A lot more of these motherfuckers are going to start fighting and say, hey, yeah, no, I wasn't cheating if they weren't. The other ones are going to go, well, I guess I'm going to have to shit because I can't afford a lawyer. Guess what? The state will appoint one to you, motherfucker.
Right. No, it's a weird situation because there's no fucking shortage. You can just type into Google. You don't even specifically have to go to any one fucking website. You don't even have to look here on YouTube. Just literally open the fucking Google search bar on any fucking cell phone made in the last 15 years. Fighter weight cut issue. There's page upon page upon page. Same fucking thing. Fighter steroid suspension. Page upon page upon fucking page. There's no shortage of either one of those issues. And along with both of those issues and the results that will come from them, you will see equally as many fighters who are on the clean side of both of those issues saying, why are we fucking dealing with this still? And yet here we are in 2022, still talking about it, more from the goddamn fighters than from the organizations that sanction them. Strange times, my friends, strange times. On a lighter note from there, though, we've got two interesting little pieces of news here before we jump into the card talk. The first one, we kind of talked about this one a little bit the other day as well. I will say, I have absolute respect for people who are in a position that understand that their words will have repercussions. And they say them because it needs to be said, repercussions be damned. Sometimes those things aren't fun to hear. Sometimes those things aren't fun to say, but they need to be said. And I have respect for the people who are willing to say them, knowing that there will be repercussions just for saying those type of things. We had one of those situations where someone asked Miesha Tate when she was going to start an OnlyFans on a YouTube video. Her response in a comment was, no thanks, I'm not that desperate. Plain to the point, everybody knew what the fuck she meant. We get it. And hey, hats the fuck off for being open about it and saying it.
Fucking
And
nailed it.
then apparently the floodgates opened after that. You kind of had to assume that it was going to. She made it on a public forum of YouTube, and you know the way that the fucking fighterazzi follow anything that any fighter says on any social media platform, it was going to get picked up immediately. She didn't have to say it. She did say it. And once it's out there, somebody's going to screenshot that shit. The internet never forgets. Apparently, once she commented it, the floodgates opened up and her fucking DMs just overflowed with female fighters just giving her the fucking business. Who are you to say shit about me making any money for OnlyFans? Beck Rawling comes out of fucking nowhere and chimes up to the fucking no one asking to say, I bought my house with my OnlyFans money. And someone else chimed in and said, I bought my mother a car with OnlyFans money. And, on one hand, good for you. On the other hand, Miesha immediately upon getting fucking shit on for it, walked it 100% back and made a giant clarifying statement, Lance Armstronging the whole fucking statement to rephrase it as, I didn't mean anything against anyone who makes money on OnlyFans. I just mean that I'm not going to do OnlyFans. And then turned around and actually put some logic behind it that kind of throw the whole thing up in the air again. And she said, the way that I see it, for me, if I'm a fighter, I have to focus on fighting. And that's where my focus lies. I don't focus on fighting and 9 other things. I focus on fighting. If you're doing OnlyFans to the extent that you're buying a house or a car with it and you're fighting, your attention is clearly divided. And if you're that focused on your OnlyFans, you're clearly neglecting to put that much focus into your fight game. So are you really at that point a fighter with an OnlyFans, or are you an OnlyFans girl who fights? I 100% agree with that. First and foremost, fuck what anyone says. Make that paper, boo-boo. You pay your bills. They don't. Their input does not matter. You do what works best for you, period. I will never fucking fault anyone for taking care of them and theirs. Do you, boo-boo. But And I mean Sir Mix-a-Lot size hidden behind a $5 paywall. But if you're spending the amount of time it takes to create a pagefansant.com website and fill it with thousands of different ass shots out by your fucking pool, you are guaranteed not spending as much time in your fight preparation as you would be if you did not have that side hustle. Thereby, you are deducting that much attention from your fight, so you are an OnlyFans girl that fights. I 100% agree with that assessment.
Oh yeah, everything you do outside of training, if your job, and I say job like this because some of them, I don't think this is a job for them anymore.
Right.
Your job is fighting, then you should be training to fight, not training to see how does my nipple look next to this avocado, you know? The amount of stupid fuckery there. Don't get me wrong. Look, I have no ill will on anybody who uses that platform as a way to make money. Good on you. Make that fucking money. Pay your bills. Buy the things you like. Buy your nice car. If you're making enough money off of it, buy a fucking house. You do you, boo-boo. But if your job is professional fighter and you can't make ends meet from fighting, maybe you shouldn't be fighting, or maybe you should be training more so that way you can make enough money to be paying the bills and getting those nice things you like. I mean, there's a reason why you don't see UFC champion women doing fucking OnlyFans. Why? Because they know they have to put in that hard fucking work in order to win. There's a reason why you have people, even, I'll say it right now, even Juliana Pena, who we thought was going to get fucking demolished, comes out and beats the Lioness, makes her tap out from a rear naked choke. She ain't doing OnlyFans. What's she doing? She's fucking training. Why? Because to get to that level, you have to train your fucking ass off. Period. Apparently, those girls don't understand that. I really wish Misha wouldn't have backed up on her statement so much. However, it's still the same statement. It doesn't matter what you say. The internet, the shit lives forever now. That's how this works now. You're in an internet age. Whatever you say sticks out here. Anything I say right now is going to stick out there. It's just how that fucking works.
Yep.
So, yeah, I give her credit for calling them out like that. But on the other side of that, there is the stand your fucking ground thing. Look, that's my thought on if you're going to be fucking, if you're going to lean one way or another politically, stick with it. Doesn't matter who you're friends with. Stick fucking with it. If they're your friends, they're still going to be your friends no matter which way you lean. Stick with it, even if you piss people off. Same fucking concept. You get a lot more respect that way than you do flippy flopping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. So, on a little bit of a lighter note, the last one that I've got to talk about for our news and recent events segment here, we got word, I believe it was about 2 months ago, that former UFC title challenger Claudia Gadelha was officially retiring. Multiple different health issues related to fighting and fight camps for as long as her career has lasted. Understandably, putting her health first, no longer putting herself in the fight game. Well, for once in their miserable fucking lives, the UFC apparently decided that they were going to do the right thing. And immediately when she decided she was going to retire, picked her up and signed her as a UFC Brazil talent coordinator. She will be working with Minotauro Nogueira to help open the first official UFC PI in Brazil and start directly recruiting UFC potential fighters from the country of Brazil.
That's a fantastic fucking pickup on their end because
Yes.
Look, that girl trained her. She may never have been the best, but if anybody's ever saw her social media, all that girl does is fucking train. She trained.
Yeah.
Even when she was injured, she was figuring out ways to train while she was fucking injured. And towards the latter half of her career, in the last like 2-3 years. She was injured a fucking lot. She had a lot of issues with her knees and whatever else, but she was still constantly figuring out a way to train for fight camps and be able to make fights happen. To be honest, my hat's off to her for knowing enough is enough. I need to be able to have my body a lot longer than what this UFC ride is going to be. And now for them to actually take a very talented fighter. She was never the top dog, but she was never going to be bottom of the pack.
No, she was never.
She was always right there at that cusp. Like she could have possibly made it to the top, but with the injuries that happened, she just couldn't quite get there. So, I mean, they picked a great person for more than one reason. One, her social media presence is fucking fantastic. She knows how to train. She knows what talent looks like. And then she's going to be working with one of the fucking legends of the sport there, being basically a talent scout to get people in there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Could you ask for a better pairing if you're from Brazil, having Minotauro and her come up to you on the street and be like, hey, we saw you fight over here. You should come over to the UFC PI and we might be able to get you in here. Look, you can't ask for something better. There'll be a ton of people out there lining up to try to fight in front of them just so that way they can get that notice and possibly make it into the UFC PI or get that shot on a contender series or some shit. You know, fantastic. Good on the UFC for actually doing the right thing with her, especially knowing that she said, hey, I'm retired. I'm done.
Absolutely.
Good on her for knowing.
Very happy. I was very happy to hear that they did that. That's one of the smartest moves the UFC has made in a long time, in my opinion. That will almost guaranteed turn out to serve them very well. So, last thing before we jump into some 270 talk here, we did get the official release of the Vegas 46 medical suspensions from last weekend. In true Vegas fashion, there's basically 4 categories here. There's you took very little damage, you're suspended until February 15th. There's you took a little bit but not too much damage, you're suspended until March 2nd. There's you got injured, you're out until July 15th, or you have to clear by a doctor. And then there's the other one that we'll talk about in a second. So for the categories here, Calvin Kattar, Rogerio Bontorin, and Charles Rosa are suspended until July 15th or cleared by a doctor. They all 3 took fairly significant damage. Pretty understandable. The one that's different was, I don't know that I've ever seen this before. Giga Chikadze was handed an indefinite medical suspension. No contest, no contact until cleared by MRI and a neurosurgeon evaluation. Everyone else on the card was either March 2nd or February 15th. But Giga got a literal indefinite medical suspension. And I don't know that I've ever seen them hand one down like that. We've seen plenty of 6 months, 8 months cleared by a doctor, but I don't know that we've ever seen one legitimately say indefinite suspension.
You know what's wild about that to me? I wonder if it has anything to do with the amount of elbows he took. Because that dude, I think he took the most elbow strikes I've ever seen anybody take in a UFC fight ever.
Hater hit him with a bunch, man.
Well, then that was the worst beating that I've seen somebody take without going up in a long time.
I think that was worse than Ortega. I think that was worse than Holloway did to Ortega. I really do.
Yeah, as far as on the feet, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's other people that have taken worse beatings. Right. And kept on going, Anthony Lionheart Smith, for example. But, you know, I mean, as far as the guy who was on a streak and looked like nobody was going to be able to stop him, because this same as Ortega. Ortega was on that same kind of streak where it looked like he was fucking unstoppable.
Yep.
Giga was in this same fucking boat. Dude, the fucking gash she had here and here on the same
There was
fucking
like 4
eyebrow.
cuts on that one eyebrow.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was, dude. Like looking at the post-fight pictures from that, it was gnarly. Like I can understand the indefinite suspension until cleared by a neurologist, because after taking that much damage to your head, especially with the amount of fucking elbows, like don't get me wrong, punches will fuck you up,
right.
but those elbows, those hit a lot fucking harder. And what he hit him with, like 4 spinning back elbows too.
Yeah,
It was
3 or 4
fucking
spinning
wild.
back elbows that all landed square at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get that. Now, indefinite, that's a little fucking excessive, knowing that he's probably gonna get cleared in like 3 months. But
Right.
the point of that being, stick with the 6 month thing, or you know, even if you want to say a year cleared by a doctor, but don't say indefinite. Like
Yeah.
that's fucking stupid, because
That's what
you
I'm
know,
saying. That's the weird part.
God forbid it happened that he gets a fucking just terrible doctor, which we know is not going to happen because the UFC's got a doctor on staff for just such an occasion. But if it were to happen where he gets a fucking terrible doctor and the doctor goes, yeah, no, he takes one more of those and he fucking dies type shit, they'll fucking, well, your indefinite is indefinite. You're not coming back. And to be quite honest, he was very, even after the fight going, he did a fucking, was a Facebook Live or something after the fucking fight.
I think he went Instagram Live.
Or yeah, it was Instagram Live or Facebook Live or something. And he was very coherent, still with it. So I don't think he probably was concussed, but not bad enough to the point where shit wasn't making sense.
Right. Not horribly, not dangerously concussed.
Yeah. I think what scared them the most is the amount of elbows and the gigantic fucking gashes he had over that one eye.
Just right here area.
Yeah, that eye was fucked up. And not so much the eye, but everything around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were actually talking about that
with Cater. I'll give him that.
No, we were actually talking about it during the fight. The cut man that they had in his corner, because after every round, when he went back to that corner, that fucking eye was looking like chunks of fucking roast beef just hanging off his face. And the old guy they had working as a cut man in his corner was performing fucking miracles in that 45 seconds between rounds. He pieced his back together every fucking time and sealed that shit up. And it didn't even look like it was cut for at least the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of every fucking round till he started eating big shots and elbows again and it got busted up again. But man, at the end, he looked like a fucking Chucky doll, man. Just jigsaw lines and pieces.
Yeah, it was fucking impressive. Like his cut work, top fucking tier, man. It was very impressive to see what he managed to pull off. That's why that fight didn't get stopped, because if it had not been for that cut, man, that probably would have been stopped in the 3rd, early 4th round.
I had a buddy message me the next day. The only thing that the message contained was one sentence. If Giga's Cutman was in New York, the BMF belt might have went to California.
Yep.
Because if the guy working in Nate Diaz's corner could have put that motherfucker back together the way that old man pieced the jigsaw of Giga's eye back in 45 goddamn seconds, that fight very well could have went 5 fucking rounds. So the cut man genuinely does make a huge factor in big fights like this. And I think that's a perfect fucking example of it. So with that being said, we got no kids, so we're not going to do a pit this fine evening here. We are, though, going to talk about UFC 270 coming up this weekend, because the first pay-per-view of the year deserves a little bit of love. Even if it's not the greatest pay-per-view we've ever seen, there are still genuinely some good fights on it that do deserve talking about here. So pulling this card up here real quick, right out of the gate, I definitely want to take just a moment here to talk about the opening fight on the card. Kay Hansen has looked like an absolute fucking wrecking ball, but has unfortunately been on the sidelines for a hot minute due to a couple of different issues going on over there. And they're not giving her an easy way out. Jasmine Jasudavicius, I believe is how they said her name. One of the ladies that is coming out of the Soup Can series with just unfucking believable amounts of hype behind her. They're giving her a lot of praise from every fucking
UFC affiliated media outlet, I will say. So it's going to be very interesting to see how she stacks up and to see how Kay Hansen looks after a good chunk of time off as well, because what we saw her in the brief moment we did get to see Kay Hansen, she put fucking work in, and she's definitely got some good potential. I'm very curious to see how the time off has treated her. And on the other side of that coin, if Jasmine really is all the hype that the UFC media machine seems to be putting on her.
You know, that's an interesting way to open up a card. So, I mean, and to be honest, the fight is in the right spot. Kay Hansen's 2 fights into the UFC so far, and got Jasmine coming in as a fucking off the soup can series. Kay Hansen has been her first fight. She did very well. Fucking took one hell of a beating with a fucking nasty gash over her eye, and still managed to get the submission victory. And loses a very close decision in her second fight. So the girl has potential. And I say potential because we don't know which way that potential is going to swing. So I'm not going to say it's good potential or bad potential, but there's definitely some kinetic energy fucking sitting there right there. But we're going to see what happens with coming off this contender series as a woman, because we haven't seen too many contender series women come out and do great things yet.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping that we finally can get one and say, finally, we have a one contender series woman to actually latch onto. Because, I mean, there's been a couple, and I say a couple, very few men come off the contender series that have actually turned out to be something worth our while. There have been some that have come off there that have went, they're just fucking interesting as hell, so you want to watch them fight, a la Chase Super type things. But, I mean, we'll see what happens here, but definitely the perfect spot on the card for this fight. Right to open it off. They're still, technically, they're on a pay-per-view card. What a way to make your entrance into the UFC on a pay-per-view card as a first fight. And, you know, Kay, see how you come off that last loss you had there. So, be definitely a good matchup, and I think it's good for that flyweight division as a whole, having those 2 younger ladies actually get into it there and see what kind of depth we're going to add to that roster.
I agree. I'm very curious to see how it plays out. I think it is exactly the right spot for it, and I'm very curious to see. Moving along from there, though, jumping over to from the early prelims into the actual prelims here. There's 2 that I want to talk about on this one here. The first one, I would genuinely be remiss as a fucking MMA commentator, journalist, fat guy that talks about punchy kicky, however you want to phrase it, dude who likes wrestling. I would be remiss as a fan if I did not take a second here to say that it is so fucking weird how it is shaken out, but I am still genuinely excited to see Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain. Talk about 2 fucking prospects who have just got a dump truck's worth of potential going in their favor here. Jourdain stepping in on short notice. Topuria originally had a different opponent. Things shook loose, as they often do lately. Jourdain coming off of a crazy fucking big win his last time out, trying to keep his train rolling here. Just 2 very interesting styles and 2 young dudes who just go out there and get after it every fucking time. I'm very excited to see this one play through.
Yeah, this is another interesting fight. And being as they're little guys, don't expect a boring fight out of them. You're gonna definitely get some fucking shucking and jiving there. And not to mention, Ilia Topuria, he's got something to fight for still. He still has an O.
Yes, he does.
And that I am always interested in people who still have the O, for the reason of who's going to be that person to make the O go. Is it in this case going to be Charles Jourdain, where he has that chance to make that go away? We'll see. Or is Topuria, is he really the real deal in this division, where that O is going to stay in place and he's going to make that step up to possibly get somebody inside the top 10 in his next fight, you know? Because, I mean, he's sitting, ranked 14 or 13, something like that right now?
13 right now, yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, so ranked 13. If he comes in with Jourdain on the hype train that he is and just shuts Jourdain down, dude, fucking leapfrogs him into the top 10, in my opinion. I agree.
Oh, there's definitely some interesting potential to that fight. There really is.
Yeah, well, and not to mention on the inverse side of that, with the fucking role that Jourdain has got going at the moment, coming off the crazy fucking fight last time, if he comes in on short notice now and somehow gets past Ilya, takes that fucking Ilya's ranked 13, that puts Jourdain in the conversation for a top 10 guy next to really see where he legitimately stacks up with the top of the talent.
Exactly. And I'm still trying to figure out, why did they not put this in the premier prelim fight spot?
I don't fucking know.
Because this one right here.
I take that back. I do know why they didn't. Because the premier prelim, which is the other one that we're gonna mention anyways, Hyanni Barcelos versus Victor Henry is another fight that they have booked 3 fucking times thanks to the Backstreet Boys. So I have a feeling at this point, because it was Victor Henry who caused the last 2 to fall out. So I have a feeling that Dana kind of, quote unquote, did Barcelos a favor and can't give you more money. Contract's already been signed, but we can put you in the premier prelim spot where you potentially get more eyes. And if you get a win there, you're more likely to get a bonus, yada, yada, yada. But I think I agree with you. I think the Topuria versus Jourdain fight absolutely deserves to be in that fucking premier prelim spot much more than Barcelos Henry does.
And that's where I think they fucked that up. You literally have a Dollar Tree version of fucking, and actually, let me not say Dollar Tree, a dollar store version of fucking Clay Guida in Victor Henry. And I say a dollar store version because all he does is look like him. He's making his debut into the UFC. Fucking debut. Has not fought in the UFC yet. Debut. How the fuck do you get a premier prelim spot as a debut fighter in the UFC on a pay-per-view fucking card? Absolutely ridiculous. This is not the fight I want to sell my pay-per-views. That's all I'm saying.
I think if that's what they were going for, they should have definitely put the Jourdain fight there.
I'm just saying, I'm really hoping that they blow my fucking mind here. Right. And it just absolutely rock shit. However, I can tell you with what time the prelims start, I probably won't be paying attention quite as well because, to be honest, the prelims really not that great. But I've got a fucking football game to watch on that night, so that's gonna be right in the middle of the fucking prelims. So chances are I probably am gonna miss that fight, and I won't be sad about it because, you know, look, dollar store fucking Clay Guida, not anything I want to watch.
Yeah, that's exactly the other reason that I wanted to mention the premier prelim, I say with fucking air quotes, as the other fight on the prelims, is just because they have, much like we talked about earlier, this fight has been rebooked 3 times for Victor Henry's UFC debut. There's no reason this particular matchup had to be rebooked 3 times. We've seen more than a couple times, even recently, when a fight falls through for any fucking reason, they just swap the fucking people around to keep whoever didn't fall out as close to the original fight date as possible, because there's virtually a never-ending supply of people who are ready on short notice or semi-short notice to step up and fill that void, because this type of thing happens all the fucking time. They could have given Victor Henry someone else when Barcelos fell out the first time. They could have given Barcelos somebody the last time Henry fell out, or the first time Henry's cornermen fell out and caused them to get bumped off the fucking card. But they didn't. They kept this fucking pairing, and then they gave it the fucking premier prelim spot over a fight that I am almost certain will be better than this one. I genuinely hope I'm wrong, and Barcelos Henry blows us the fuck away and maybe gets fight of the night or some kind of award or something. But I am inclined to believe that is not going to be the fucking case here. And I am certainly inclined to think that Topuria versus Jourdain is going to be a much better matchup. That being said, they could have done much worse leading into the main card with some of the other very mediocre fights on the early and the prelims around those two.
Oh, yeah. It definitely could have been better. That's for sure.
Yeah. But from there, that will bring us into the main card. I think I think the main card bothers me more than the prelims do. I can understand to a certain degree the Barcelos versus Henry catching that premier prelim, like I said, because it's the third time around. Maybe Barcelos got that wink, wink, will take care of you from Dana and put him in the premier spot. I get it. But then you're going to turn around and you're going to open the card with Rodolfo Vieira versus Wellington tournament. You are much more likely at this point in the game to catch a random fan off the street and go, hey, do you know who Charles Jourdain and Ilya Topuria are? Than you are to pick any random fight fan walking through the apex to their seat and go, hey, when's the last time you saw Rodolfo Vieira fight? They're going to give you the dumbest 1,000-yard stare you've ever seen in your fucking life. Why this is the opening fight for the fucking pay-per-view main card, $75 UFC charged number event kickoff of 2022. I don't fucking understand. I really don't. There is, I will say, a smidgen's chance that it's an interesting fight, but it is just that, it's a smidgen's chance, because this is one of those situations where we've got two primarily one-trick pony average wrestlers who are probably going to spend the whole fight throwing shitty punches at each other from way too far away and not doing any damage against each other. This, to me, would have been perfect for a premier prelim matchup, much more than the first fight you had to pay $75 to watch.
You know, when I said there was fuckery afoot this week, I didn't just mean the news. This is part of that fuckery.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I would much rather than see this for my $75. Watch Amanda Nunes' new training routine with her new gym, because, you know, that would be much more interesting than this bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm just saying there's some fucking. I get it. You're not selling the card for this fight, but when I take $75 of my money and go, I'm really hyped for this. I expect something to open the fucking show with that goes, this is going to put the ass in the seats and keep them there, or make them stand up from them seats because it's so fucking exciting. Right. This is not that fucking fight. If anything,
you know,
this is where we get the walk-offs. And I don't mean one-hitter quitters.
Right. I think upon reflection here, I can confidently say I would feel much better if they had put Kay Hansen versus Jasmine Judovicius as the opening fight for the main card and put this as the opening fight for the entire card on the early prelims. I think that would be way more exciting and more potentially value building than this Vieira versus tournament matches. Realistically, genuinely. And I'm not bullshit. I'm not trying to be funny or smart ass. I genuinely think that fight has more hype around it as two young girls in the UFC versus two fucking middleweight wrestling prospects.
Yeah. And not exactly. It's not breaking the mold by any means. To be quite honest, I would expect this fight on the Contender Series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this would absolutely be a good Supcan Series fight. And somehow we end up with it as the first one for a fucking $75 pay-per-view event. Fucking Dana. But that being said, that actually does bring us to a genuinely interesting match that I do feel does deserve to be on a main card of a pay-per-view event here. Cody Stamen versus Syed Nurmagomedov. This is American wrestling versus Dagestani wrestling. Neither one of these dudes are known for their hands. Both of them have decent boxing striking skills, but both of these two are primarily known for their takedowns and their wrestling ability, albeit different styles. Throwing those two different styles together, I feel, is going to give us a much different version of the fight that will precede it, where we get two very similar wrestling styles where it's just going to be like blockheads clashing into each other like this. Here we legitimately have two different worlds apart styles of wrestling at the very core coming against each other in the MMA cage. And I think that is actually going to provide the entertainment that the UFC seems to somehow think the first matchup is going to bring. This one, I feel, will be an exciting grappler versus grappler match.
Yeah, it's definitely a grappler versus grappler match. But I mean, look, I'll say it, Cody Stamen is about the most inconsistent cocksucker on the UFC roster.
Yes, he is.
And Syed is not much better so far. Considering he is of that Nurmagomedov fucking bloodline, he obviously is not of the same bloodline. And I don't mean that in a fucking way as in he's not family with them. I mean it as in he's not the same potential that we've seen from every other Nurmagomedov that's come fucking through.
To quote a local to his roots soliloquy, the olive seems to have fallen fairly far from the tree.
Yeah. I'm saying, I mean, don't get me wrong, the wrestling ought to be pretty goddamn good though in this fight. So if you're into the grappling aspect of it, you expect to see some good grappling. I mean, but other than that, another one of these fights that on any other pay-per-view card, this would probably be on the prelims or even the premier early prelim fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, this is fuckery afoot because they're not selling the card for the fights that are below the co-main and main on this, obviously.
I agree. The bad part about that, though, is that speaking of fights that aren't helping sell the fucking pay-per-view and fuckery being afoot, that absolutely brings us into the next match here. Michel Pereira versus Andre Faglio. This fight was originally scheduled for last week's UFC Vegas 46 and has for some fucking reason been moved to the People's co-main event on the first pay-per-view of the year. This is another one of those situations where we've got a person making their UFC debut to such a degree that literally, as I look at it right now, just refreshed 2 days before the fight, they still don't even have a fucking profile picture for Andre up. He's still got the player not yet unlocked profile gray out on the UFC fucking website. He's the People's co-main event on the first pay-per-view of the fucking year, and they don't even have his picture up yet.
You know what the greatest part about that is? I looked at that too this week. A lot of times you can get past the first little grayed out picture, and if you click on him, it'll bring up their profile. Normally you get some sort of picture. No, they don't even have that. This character hasn't even been written into the game yet.
Yeah.
Like they haven't finished the polygonal shading and fucking whatever else. It's fucking bad. And
People's co-main event
here we
fucking
are in a fucking People's co-main event. Why? Because you have a jackass who wants to do flips in the middle of a fucking fight. Get fucked. Get this shit out of here. I could think of 6 other fights on the card that I would rather see here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. People's fucking co-main event. First pay-per-view of the year. You pay $75 to watch his backflip and dipshit.
I'm just saying, I'd rather see the Trevin Giles fight fucking People's co-main event than this. By long.
Yeah.
By
Yeah,
long
no,
shot.
I agree completely. It's stupid.
Fuck, give me Silvana Juarez and Vanessa Demopoulos on here. That's even better than this.
Right. But and I can't even say it is, the attempt at saving grace, because we don't know, but the attempt at saving grace for this card, the first UFC pay-per-view of 2022. UFC 270, the co-main event, the third iteration of the flyweight title bout, Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo. I'm very, very conflicted on this. On both of these two title fights coming up, actually, for the same reason on different sides, though. In this particular matchup, we have got a situation where Deiveson Figueiredo lost because of a jiu-jitsu mistake. Acknowledged he lost, acknowledged because it was his mistake, and Moreno capitalized on it, gave him his props, and turned around and literally changed his entire camp, changed his entire training structure, went back to the drawing board and started over from scratch and restructured himself to get his shot back at the belt here. Then you've got a guy in Moreno who you used to always see going back to the drawing board, who used to always be hungry, always be working, always be real humble. And then since he's got that belt put on his shoulder, has started to, and I don't want it to come off like I'm only picking on Moreno. This is something we see with a lot of champions, but since that belt got put on his shoulder, it seems like his focus has been less on the fighting that got him the belt and more on all of the other things that come with having that belt, all of the distractions, all of the social media, all of the media obligations in general, all of the, this is for you now, all of the tours, all of the things that take you away from the fighting aspect of it, like we talked about with the OnlyFans shit earlier, the things that take you away from where your focus should be. And we see on the other side of it, Figueiredo, who lost that belt, has dove face first into that exact philosophy. He threw everything he knew away and started from scratch to try and get back the hunger and the fire that got him to the belt to begin with. And it seems like Moreno almost became instantly complacent as the champion. And sure, he talks a big talk, but I don't go on what people say. I'm one of those MMA nerds. I follow the social media. I look at the different postings, not just from them, but about them, from other organizations, from other people. What are they doing? How are they actually taking this title fight serious or not? Moreno just doesn't seem to be taking it as serious, just for reference, as he did the last two title fights against Figueiredo here. Now, the problem for me is that when you look at Figueiredo, yes, he has gone back and he has thrown everything out and gone back to square one and started over, but he went back to the drawing board and started over with Henry Cejudo. He literally uprooted his life and moved to Arizona and has put his future in the hands of Henry Cejudo wholeheartedly, to the extent that he's wearing Eric Albiacine fucking chained glasses to the gym to train now. Yes, he's training, but that's a factor you have to weigh in as well. Yes, Cejudo had a gold medal. I don't know if anybody else knew that. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware. Cejudo had a gold medal, but it wasn't from the fucking UFC. And he hasn't done anything in the UFC except for talk in a while now. So while I absolutely commend Figueiredo for going back to the fucking basics, for giving up the fucking silk sheets that he wasn't training from to get back to the hunger that got him where he was, you got to be careful with who you put in your corner too. So on one hand, I feel like we legitimately have a chance to see the best Figueiredo we have ever seen, and a good chance that we're going to see a less focused Moreno than he should be right now. But there's also those other factors that Moreno didn't get here on dumb luck. And Figueiredo has a head on his shoulders, despite Henry Cejudo in his ear. So there's no way to say on paper, oh, this is an easy fight. This is going to be a legitimate trilogy matchup between, in my opinion, the two best flyweights the UFC has to offer. The question for me comes down to who genuinely wants this? Not who says it, who really wants it. Because when those cage doors close, talk don't matter no more. All the preparation don't matter no more. Those doors are closed. It's you and it's him. And only one of you gets to leave with the belt. I like Moreno. I really do. But I think Figgy Smalls is bringing it back home.
Well, looking at this fight, the third one, there's a couple things that really come to mind here. One, I'll start with Moreno. Moreno does look like he has, unfortunately, gotten pulled into the media hype, fucking you're the champ shit, because that's what the UFC does to champions. It just happens, and I get that. But that also does come into play with fucking with your training and all of that, because you have media obligations. They're part of the job. But that does cut into your training. Whereas Dayton Figueiredo, on the other hand, does not have to deal with that right now. He can solely focus on it. However, caveat to that statement is he left the camp that made him champ to go and train with Henry Cejudo and their team in Arizona, who is picking up the leftovers that have been kicked out of other gyms for fucking up. I'm pretty sure that I like where Figueiredo's head was at in the idea of I'm going to go and try to I don't want to say reinvent himself, because he's not reinventing himself, but to try out a different gym. But I don't think this was the right time to go to a different gym. I think this was the wrong time to make that move. I know he's still got the hunger for the belt, but falling in with that crowd of Cringe Hudo and fucking John Jones, it makes me wonder, is he really that focused? Because, I mean, if you're hanging out with those guys, chances are your focus is not where it should be. You might be doing blow in the back room before training sessions, for all we know. I mean, there is John Jones in there. That's all I'm saying. And God knows what kind of dumb fuckery that Crinchudo has him doing. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to learn wrestling, learn it from an Olympic champion wrestler. Great place to make sure your wrestling is on point. I just think he made a really bad decision in changing gyms. Why change from the gym that made you champ? You went to a draw with Moreno the first time. The second one, Moreno legitimately beat you in a jiu-jitsu fucking scramble. And he did it in a beautiful fashion. Good on him. To be quite honest, I was really hoping that Figueiredo wasn't going to change camps during all of this. Because my thought on this was, we had not the opportunity for just a trilogy, but for a quad. Because if he wins this, they're a horse apiece in a draw. They have to fight a fourth fight. They have to. And guess what? The two fights we've seen so far, if this third one lives up to the hype of the first two, fuck, sign me up for a fourth one. Those guys fucking deserve it, especially. Now, that's saying Brandon Moreno doesn't win. If Moreno wins, sorry, Figgy. You go back down in the pack and have to fight 3-4 fights again before you get another fucking shot, because that's how the UFC works. But waking up in silk sheets and having all those media obligations, that makes for a really tough way to fucking keep that belt. And don't get me wrong, I do see the change in him, but I don't see it as a overlooking change. It looks like a confidence change. Like there's a little too much confidence. And there's nothing wrong with being confident. I want to make that very clear, but having a little bit of overconfidence, that's a good thing. And look, considering what we've seen out of the media questioning what he thinks about Figueiredo right now, he's definitely giving Figueiredo his full attention. He's not looking past him by any means. He's even saying, I'm glad Figueiredo changed camps, because That tells me he knows what didn't work in the first 2 fights. Something needed to change. I don't think that was the right way to go, but then again, I'm not in that situation. Not to mention, I don't think it's the right way to go because of the camp that you chose. You're doing blow before fucking training sessions, allegedly, just because of who your training partners are. And you have literally the king of cringe trying to be your coach. And to be quite honest, the amount of them trying to start fucking ruckus over this fight because of cringe-hudo, it's fucking stupid. There was no bad blood here before. Don't try to force it. Those guys legitimately respect each other. Stop trying to put a bunch of bullshit in just because you got cringe-hudo in his ear, running his fucking mouth. So now Davidson thinks there's bad blood there. And obviously, Moreno's not having any of that nonsense. He's like, no, it's just a fucking fight business. That's what it is. Oh, it is going to be an interesting fight. This is one of only 2 reasons that you should buy this card. One of only 2. But definitely, I'm not sure who's going to win this. I still think this is a coin flip fight. I really do. I do not see it any more than a coin flip because those guys are so fucking evenly matched. Like, and when we first saw the first Brandon Moreno fight and knowing Davidson Figueiredo came out being sick and still fought that hell of a fight, I thought, okay, a draw, that's all right. Let's see the second one. Second one, Brandon Moreno came out, decisively won it. He outboxed him and he got in a good fucking jiu-jitsu scramble and got him with that nice rear naked choke. But the third fight, I expect just as big of fireworks as we saw in the 2. And with these 2 so evenly matched, it's literally a 50-50 flip, in my opinion. I really wish I could tell you who's going to win this fight. I don't have an earthly fucking idea. And I'm just praying to God that my football game is over before this fight starts so I can give it my undivided attention.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand that. 2 points you actually reminded me of that I was going to bring up that I forgot about. One, the not just the camp change to training with fucking cringe-hudo now, but the people that are training with cringe-hudo now. It's not just that it's Figgy and Henry down there. It's that it's Figgy and Henry and Wei Lee and John Jones. And John Jones isn't there because that's where he chose to go. John Jones is there because that's pretty much the only place that'll take him right now. Wei Lee, on the other hand, did choose to go there. But if you look back at her last fight against Rose, where she had been training in Arizona at Fight Ready with Cejudo for that, she most certainly did not look like the Wei Lee that had gotten herself to Rose initially. So there is, as much as there may be benefit, there is legitimate question being thrown at people training out there at Fight Ready with Cejudo. But
Most
the other,
definitely.
yeah. But the other point, the one that kind of puts the stamp on it for me when I was talking about how Moreno seems to have really changed since he's got that belt, was just from today, just from this afternoon, from 3.5 hours ago, from the press conference and the first actual face-off for this fight from Moreno and Figueiredo. In the last face-off, there was no bad blood, there was no animosity, there was mutual respect. They walked up to each other, and then out of nowhere, for no reason, Figueiredo shoves Moreno, and you could kind of see Figueiredo's trying to do a little bit of head game shit, but Moreno wasn't biting on it. Then we jump to today, to just this afternoon. They line up again. As they walk up, Moreno leans around Dana to show Figueiredo, it's the heart, gives him the nod and the bow and respect. Figueiredo walks up with his phone out, videoing the whole thing, and he walks up and he stands there and he nods at Moreno, and then they bring the belt out. Moreno grabs the belt and he looks at Figueiredo and he says something that you can't pick up on the microphone, and Figueiredo kind of like laughs and like shakes his head, and he's still looking down at his phone, and you can see Moreno's face change, and he goes from like smiling, happy, goofy Moreno to what? And you see him literally throw the belt on the stage and then try and step around Dana and like get up in Figueiredo's face, almost doing the same thing that Figueiredo did to him last time. And in the exact opposite reaction, Figueiredo could not have given a fuck less. He laughs and he's still videoing on his phone. He just takes another step back so he's far enough away. Nothing's going to happen. He doesn't even fucking react to it. But Moreno is visibly fucking shaken and trying to get around Dana and the security to start shit with Figueiredo out of nowhere all of a sudden. Maybe something and maybe nothing, but it's out of character at the very least.
Makes you wonder what was
That's the kind
said.
of shit, yeah, that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about, because Figueiredo's smiling and recording, and Moreno, like, you see the moment his face drops from happy to fuck you. Throws the belt on the ground. He's trying to get around security all of a sudden. Now he's Big Billy Badass going to start a fight at a press conference. That's not Moreno. Like, something's going on. Like, there's something bubbling under the surface here.
And there might be. And I mean, I'm not sure I'd want to piss Moreno off, though, because he's always so happy-go-lucky. And
yeah,
that's a scary thought.
The happy guy getting angry.
Yeah, the happy guy gets angry.
Things
Things generally don't end well.
Yeah, it gets real interesting real fast when shit like that happens. And we saw that literally just a couple hours ago today. That's a factor that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at this. It makes it a little more interesting, in my opinion. Like, there's something going here. Like, maybe it's beef, maybe it's just fucking the belt animosity, but this is a fucking brawl brewing. Like, this is why it is worth paying that $75 for this card, because this fight and the next one we're getting ready to talk about here, the heavyweight championship of the world, the main event for the first pay-per-view of 2022 in the UFC 270, Francis the Predator Ngannou versus Cyril Bongamin Gane. Unification of the heavyweight belts in one of the strangest storylines in heavyweight history, in my opinion. The man raised shoveling sand versus the French prospect. Former training partners turned adversaries, because they're not so much enemies, but there's definitely bad blood between the two of them. So they're absolutely adversaries. But one of the undeniably heaviest hitting monsters of the heavyweight division the UFC has ever seen versus arguably one of the most agile, most genuinely well-rounded heavyweights the UFC has ever seen. And what makes it more interesting is that these two spent years training together in France. They know each other intimately in the fight world, much more than most people that fight ever will. Very few matchups have guys who know each other this well. And then you stack in the fact that these dudes are heavyweights and they both have crazy power. And Ngannou has terrifying power, but Gane has damn fine power in his big ass hands as well. And the movement that Cyril Gane has for a 260-pound man is fucking scary. It's legitimately scary. He's so well-rounded. He's got submissions, he's got wrestling, he's got striking that we have seen can compete with Francis's, and he knows how to deal with the big power that guys like Ngannou bring, literally. On the other side of that, though, we've seen the best prepared guys the UFC has had to offer melt like a snowflake on a sunny fucking day the second those giant hands touch you one good time. So it really is just going to come down to, is Cyril Gane really bona fide, genuinely different than every heavyweight we have seen in the UFC before him? Because if he is, he's about to potentially take off on one of the greatest heavyweight reigns we've seen in a hot fucking minute. But the other side of that coin is that if he's not, if he's just a mortal man like everyone else that has stepped in front of Francis Ngannou, we very well could see Francis come out there and new and disputing his contract after Saturday night. Because Francis has already said that he has no intention to stay with the UFC, win, lose, or draw. He wants to go somewhere else because he doesn't like the way the UFC is treating him, I say with air quotes. The only way that makes any difference whatsoever is if he wins. Because if Cyril gets past him, Francis is about to start collecting dust on a shelf for a minute now. But that's a big if. Because, like I said, we've seen some of the best that they've had to offer stand up and look great until that one moment where that hand from Ngannou touches you and it changes your whole reality in a heartbeat. I'm not even going to try to pretend that Francis isn't one of the most dangerous dudes we've ever fucking seen in the UFC. But there's something that has to be said for a guy who not only wasn't afraid of Francis, but wanted to train with Francis. Not just once, not just in a session, not just, I'm here on a Thursday. Oh, that's a big guy. I'm going to go train with him. But for fucking years, this was his dude. He wanted that motherfucker in front of him. Because if he can take care of that, what the fuck is anybody else going to threaten him with? And he handled that. We've seen videos of it going back and forth, but he could fucking handle that. So this has got some serious, genuine potential, in my opinion, to put the heavyweight department on notice. If you boys are fucking around, you're going to stay on the bottom. You want to get to the top, that's what you're up against. Those two monsters represent the top of the stack in the heavyweight of the UFC right now. As much as the last fight was a coin flip, this for me, I have no insight whatsoever to pick either one of these two. This for me is the 100% coin flip fight. It will be extremely entertaining either way it goes down, but I have nothing to make me believe either one of them legitimately has the edge here. They are both so fucking dangerous in their own right. This is why you pay $75 to find out the result.
You know what's fantastic? Thinking about this, what are we in year 3 or 4 of this now of doing the I'm No Joe show here, right? You're 4. I distinctly remember the day we found out Cyril Gane was coming into the UFC, knowing he was Francis Ngannou's training partner, because Francis was already on that skyward fucking bound. He's gonna be the champ. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this happened. And I remember 2019 when they brought him in and they're like, we're going to give him his first fight in the UFC. I was stoked then, because I knew anybody who could fucking train with a killer like fucking Ngannou has got to be the real deal and got to have a lot of shit going on for them. Here we are 3 years fucking later, and we get to watch these two fucking, what I will call fucking Brahma bulls, lock horns and fucking go at it. This is fucking fantastic. This is literally, look, this fight right here is like the WrestleMania of fucking the UFC. If we're gonna go and compare this to a gigantic fucking wrestling event, this is that kind of fight. This is the main event you want to see. They were trying, and I think a lot of this had to do with the UFC and really bad fucking just news media trying to push some sort of negative narrative where there's this bad blood between the guys. There's really not. What it seems like there's more bad blood between is the coaches.
Yes, I agree.
And I get it. Cyril Gane's current coach, still in France, is a little mad because Francis came and won a championship when he thinks he could have gotten it done with him staying in France, which he very well could have. I mean, obviously, Cyril's fucking good enough to make it to fucking become interim champ and now have that shot at unifying the title. They're obviously doing something right in fucking France. I'm just saying. But it seems like most of the bad fucking blood talk has been between the coaches, which is really fucking weird. I don't get it, and I don't like them trying to sell a fight like that. You don't need to sell this fight other than this is literally, you have Godzilla and fucking Godzilla. They're going to literally go and destroy anything in their way. And the best part is all of the talk that comes down that they've been doing, and not so much the fighters themselves, because I've not everything that I've seen and picked apart has been mutual respect. Yeah, they both know that they want to win, but they both have mutual respect for each other, which is fucking fantastic. But this is literally the epitome of the heavyweight division. I don't know if in my lifetime we're ever going to see a heavyweight championship matchup like this again. Because you don't get a guy with just the killer power that Francis contains, and his boxing prowess has gotten so much better since he first came in. Not to mention his becoming a more well-rounded fighter. He's still got some work to do on like wrestling and things like that, but he's definitely getting there. But then you have a Shogun who, to be quite honest, he moves like he's 170. It's fucking crazy. So the speed at which he moves versus every other fucking heavyweight out there is absolutely ridiculous. And so you're getting that traditional fucking power and speed matchup, but everybody forgets Cyril still has some fucking ridiculous power. They forget he did put away fucking the Black Beast. Just saying. And not a lot of people can say that. Not a lot at all. So, I mean, the dude has legitimately ran through everyone who has been in the heavyweight division in front of him to get to this point. He's 6 or 7 fights deep in the UFC in the heavyweight division, and they didn't give him a slow start either. They put him on a quick power curve because they wanted this fight to happen. And Cyril Gane stepped up to the plate, delivered, and hit home run after grand slam. So here we are. I can't call a coin flip because who God only fucking knows. What I do think is great, though, is I'm kind of hoping win, lose, draw, Francis leaves the UFC. Not because I don't want to see him fight in the UFC, but because I wanted to piss Dana White off so goddamn bad. Because Dana's all, well, we're not going to negotiate right now. Nope, he's in the last fight of his contract. Fuck him. No. Fucking leave, Francis. Go anywhere. Anywhere. Go over to Bellator. Wreck that fucking heavyweight division of Bellator, because Bellator's heavyweight division would get absolutely decimated. There would be no more heavyweight division over there. Fuck. Go to PFL for Christ's sakes. You'll win a guaranteed $1 million. Plus all of the amount of sponsors that are going to want to sponsor you to fight there or anywhere else you go. I hope Francis leaves. I really do. And it's not because I don't want to see him in the UFC, because I love seeing great fighters in the UFC because they're going to fight other great fighters. But the amount of fuckery that has been going on playing with fighter pay and not wanting to pay fighters what they're worth is a problem. Francis should be making probably a couple million a fight at this point. He's that big of a draw. He doesn't sell tickets by doing crazy shit like John Jones, like kidding pregnant women while he's high on fucking coke in a vehicle. But, you know, he still sells fights. And Cyril is obviously getting to that point now to where he's selling fights, because you don't get to fight Francis Ngannou if you can't sell a fight. The dude sells fights. Just saying. This is reason number 2 why you spend the money to watch this card, or spend the money and go to B-dubs. Because to be quite honest, show up late to B-dubs, or show up early and get fucking shitty before the fights even happen, you know. But to be quite honest, I'm gonna watch the fights myself. But if I'm giving anybody else any advice, don't pay for this at home unless you have a bunch of people coming over where everybody's willing to chip in $5-10. Do not order this at home. I'm going to, but that's because, well, I'm that kind of fight fan. Because even these boring ass fights that are on here are still interesting to me in one way, shape, or form. So I'm still going to order it. But for your casual Joe, don't order it. Go to somebody else's house who's having it. Fucking go to B-dubs or your local bar that does it or wherever the fucking case may be. Pay their cover charge, eat, drink, be merry, call a fucking Uber or a cab or something, get you home. But don't pay for this. You're literally paying $75 for 2 fights. That's $35 a piece for 2 fights that are worth your while. The co-main and the main. And to be quite honest, both of these are main event fucking fights in their own right. Because either one of these could have headlined the fucking card. But because of the way the UFC does it, heavyweights always headline over fucking flyweights. That's just how that always works. So, but yeah, I really wish I knew which way this fight is going to go. But we'll find out fucking Saturday, that's for sure. We're being fucking 1 day and a wake up away, you know? Yeah, so,
right.
I'm saying that tune in, it's going to be excellent, at least for those two. But if you're wanting to watch the pay-per-view, don't buy that shit. Go somewhere else that has it and pay their cover charge. Way more worth it. You get more bang for your buck that way.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. But that's going to be all we've got for this particular episode. To find out if we were right in our predictions, tune in Sunday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Central Standard Time for the What Did I Say show, where we'll bring you all the recaps from Saturday night's shenanigans. That being said, before we get out of here, I do want to take a moment and thank my co-host with the most here, the one and only Golf T Vapes himself, for hanging out with me this evening, breaking down this fun-filled card, the first pay-per-view of the year for you guys. If you appreciate what we do around here, there's a little thumbs up button down there. Make sure you are subscribed and your notification on whatever platform you're consuming this is turned on so you don't miss an episode. We do this live on youtube.com/IamNoJoe. You can catch us. There's always notifications. If you don't want to watch, I get it. I have a mirror. I know what I look like. We also do this for that very reason. Anchor.fm/IamNoJoe. The all audio format of the show a week after we air live comes out over there. You can get it through your podcast consumption platform of choice. Down at the bottom in this little scroller, also in the description, we have the links for our Discord channel, Discord server, however the kids call it these days. We have got news that doesn't make it on the air, gets posted over there. We've got a section for viewer questions. You can ask us what you want to hear, our thoughts on crazy shit, and we'll answer it live for you over there. Also, all the live notifications for when we are live happen over there as well. So that's another way to make sure you don't miss it. If you do want to support what we do around here, patreon.com/IamNoJoe is the best way to do it. It helps us do what we do around here. Get your name on the thank you script at the end, gives you access to behind the scenes, unaired, and literally unairable I'm No Joe footage that the only way to see is to kick in there, and we appreciate it. That being said, if you don't like what we're doing, why the fuck are you still here this deep into a podcast? Hit the fucking thumbs down and get the fuck on out. We don't need you anyways. We're not even going to dispute it. But if you're on YouTube, the best way to help us out, since the algorithm's always a-changing, they don't give a shit about thumbs up. They don't give a shit about thumbs down. What YouTube cares about is videos watched. So if you want to help us out on YouTube, go check out another video. Keep an eye out Sunday for the What Did I Say show. Go back in the library. We have almost 4 years. We have not missed a single major MMA card in those 4 years. There's something back there for you to like. I guarantee it. That being said, we are going to go ahead and get the hell on out of here. So I do want to thank you for tuning in, whether you catch us live or on the replay. We appreciate you just the same. Remember, folks, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, unless you think pipes can survive below freezing weather.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
How do I say goodbye to what we had. The good times.